Hi guys and gals and kittens, and welcome to the I Need a Magic show. So in this video I'm going to show you something you've never seen ever before. I'm going to create what it doesn't even have a name, so I'm going to call it AI App. Basically an application with a database and an API, all CRUD operations entirely controlled through OpenAI and ChatGPT. So here I am in a Magic Cloudlet. There's a link in the description of this YouTube video to where you can purchase a Cloudlet. By the way, you at the very least need the professional version because we only deliver Cloudlets with Pro and up. So now here I can go to my databases inside of my Cloudlet. I can connect to any existing database I have. I can connect to MySQL, PostgreSQL, SQL Server. I can provide a connection name and a connection string. Then I can connect to any database that I can reach from this particular Cloudlet. I don't have that, so I'm just going to create a new database, SQLite database, by simply installing a database. We happen to have a plugin repository. You can go to manage, you can go to plugins, or you can find databases you can install. I'm going to choose SQLite Chinook DB. So this takes approximately some 30 to 60 seconds. When the plugin is installed, I have a database complete with records and everything, and I can even go into SQL Studio and I can select data from my database. I'm going to show you that once the database is done installing. However, yet again, I want to emphasize you can connect to any existing database you have. If you have a company database, an enterprise database, SQL Server, MySQL or PostgreSQL, you can actually connect to that database and reproduce what I am doing now with your own database. And if you don't have a database, if you want to create a database from scratch, you can even visually and graphically design your database using SQL Studio. I'm going to show you both of those things later when the plugin is installed. Hopefully it's going to be done soon. So now my plugin is successfully installed. If I go to create, I go to SQL Studio, I choose Chinook here in my database. We can actually have a look at the schema for this particular database. So let's look at it. As you can see here, it has an album table, genre, playlist, invoice, all that beautiful stuff, artist, customer, etc. If I wanted to, I could visually design a database, giving my table a name here, and adding columns to that table. I'm not going to do that because of limited time in this particular YouTube video. However, I can go to SQL view and I can write select all from function control space album, for instance, control space on Windows. Here you can see all the albums. For those about to rock, we salute you. So now I have a database. I go to endpoint generator. I choose my database, Chinook. I choose which table I want to generate CRUD endpoints for. I click generate endpoints. Some few seconds later, the system has produced 100% automatically using no code software development automation tools, 2,906 lines of code. I can now go into HyperID and have a look at these lines of code immediately. As you can see here, the entirety of the code is Hyperlambda. And I can edit the code as I see fit. I can add my own business logic on top of that. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go into manage. I'm going to choose endpoints. Then I'm going to wait until my endpoints are loaded, at which point I'm going to choose the search field here and write OpenAPI. Why? Because this thing happens to be returning for my Chinook. I'm going to filter on Chinook because I only want to have OpenAPI specification for my Chinook module, which are the CRUD operations wrapping my database, and then I can copy it. Here, now I can even copy the URL to this JSON, which basically is an OpenAPI specification. Now I'm going to go into ChatGPT. Then I'm going to choose create a GPT. Then I'm going to choose configure. Then I'm going to choose add action. Then I'm going to choose import from URL, paste in the URL to my OpenAPI specification, click import. I'm done. I now have an AI app. All I got to do is name my app, Chinook AI app. Add a short description. Does CRUD towards my Chinook database. Now, Because my endpoints happens to have authentication requirements, I need to go into Team. I need to choose Generate Token. For the record, I'm going to change the JWT authentication secret, so there's no point in trying to copy this token manually. So don't even worry about it. However, now I have a JWT authentication token. Then I can add my token down here, additional settings. Let me see, I think it's in here, is it? Yeah, here it is, authentication. Edit, API key, bearer, paste in my API token. It needs to be API key, it needs to be a bearer token, and it needs to be an API key inside of here. This is where you paste this thing here. And it should probably belong to the admin role. You don't want to give it root access. Right, by default, all CRUD endpoints, unless you explicitly mess with the authorization, have admin accessibility. Save, and I'm done. Now, all I gotta do is to, let me edit it, Chinook AI App, and now I can start testing it. Let's see what tables we have here now. So we have SQL Studio. Let me choose my tables here. I guess we have artists. Show me all artists from my Chinook action. Now what ChatGPT is doing, it's actually consuming my API using my JWT token, accessing artists. And as you can see here, it asks me for permission to invoke sales.team.us.inero.io. I'm giving it permission here now, and ta-da, here we go. And now it's going to show me artists. Here are the artists from the Chinook database. AC/DC, except Aerosmith, Alanis Morissette, Alice in Chains, Anthony Carlos Jobim, Apocalyptica, Audio Slave, Backbeat, blah, blah, blah. It's, I don't know how many artists I have. I probably have like 100 or something, so it's probably going to keep on going for a while. But the point is, it's actually accessing my database performing CRUD operations. This particular CRUD operation, of course, is a read operation, so it doesn't have side effects. However, once it's done, let's try to create an artist, right? Let's have a look at the schema for the artist. So artists here. Looks like, okay, it only has a name. Okay, so let's turn Thomas Hansen into an artist for kicks, right? So I'm going to create myself as an artist by performing a create invocation towards my API. I want to emphasize, fundamentally, I'm done. I now have an AI CRUD app. When I realized I could do this, I almost fainted. I almost fainted. And of course, the point is that I actually have, I'm using chat.openai.com/GPTs, right? So I'm creating my own GPT. This is what OpenAI refers to as a GPT. Now, of course, the kicker being that I actually have the ability to automatically CRUDify my database using a magic cloudlet, at which point all of a sudden I have metadata information exposed through OpenAPI or Swagger declarations, allowing ChatGPT to semantically understand the entirety of my API and wrapping it into an AI app. So let's see when this guy is done. Hopefully it's going to be done soon. It's at V, so well, it doesn't seem to be sorted alphabetically. So I'm just going to fast forward here unless it's rapidly done. You know what? Let's just stop it. It's probably going to keep on going for a while. Create Thomas Hansen as a new artist in my Chinook action. So now it's invoking my create endpoint. unless it fails, of course. OpenAI is being hammered these days, so it might fail. But as you can see now, it's trying to talk to sales, and I'm going to allow it. And now it's talking to sales, my cloudlets. Hopefully, if they succeed, it is actually going to create Thomas Hansen. Talked to sales-team.us.inero.io. Thomas Hansen has been successfully added as a new artist in your Chinook action. Let's now go back here and just verify that thing. Select all from artists where name like Thomas. Let's see if it actually created where name like. Let's see if it actually created the record. And as you can see here, Thomas Hansen. Now, if we switch back to and find the relationship between artists and album, okay? So now Thomas is releasing a new album, okay? Create a new album for Thomas Hansen, and the name of the album is for those about to change the world with AI apps. Let's see if this works. Notice you can modify the configuration, the system message. As you can see, it failed now. Error talking, unrecognized. This unfortunately does happen every now and then. It's not, now it succeeded. Let's see what it says. So first it's looking up Thomas Hansen, probably because it needs the primary key to invoke the album. And now, hopefully with a little bit of luck, this is going to succeed. You see, it's doing multiple HTTP connections. It's checking the primary key of Thomas Hansen, the artist. And now, let's go back here. Select all from artists where name like Thomas. Let's find its primary key, or it's Thomas Hansen 276. Select all from album A, where A dot and artist ID equal 276 semicolon. I mark my code, click F5, and it didn't invoke anything. Let's see why. 276. The new album for those about to change the world for Thomas Hansen has successfully been created. Let's try to do where title like for those. Let's see what it returns now. And for those about to change the world with AI apps, and unfortunately it associated it with the wrong artist ID. However, these are things that can be modified using the system message, etc. Return all artists, all albums for AC/DC. Now let's see if it actually succeeds doing this. It's going to have to do two invocations towards my API. First, it needs the primary key for AC/DC, and then it needs to use that primary key as a reference into the albums endpoint. Let's see if it's actually capable of returning all albums that was released by AC/DC. And here you can see for those about to rock, and let there be rock. AC/DC apparently in the Chinook database has 2 albums only by AC/DC. So, and that's it for today's YouTube video. Yet again, I'm going to publish this. I'm going to save this guy. Public, require valid policy. Okay, I require a valid. You see, in order to publicly save the GPT, you actually need to have a privacy setting on your API. So I'm just going to choose inero.io/privacy policy. This is our privacy policy, and I'm just going to save it like this. And at this point, I can save it publicly. which point anybody can play with it. And I'm going to provide a link to this particular AI app in the description of this YouTube video. In addition, there is going to be a link to where you can purchase a Magic Cloudlet. If I'm a software developer, without the CRUDifier of Magic, if I was to manually sit down and create the API required to do what I am actually doing here now, then that would probably require 1 to 3 months of manual software development. I created it in 5 minutes, no code. Whatever, I think it went outside of my API now. You can actually do that with a little bit of system instructions editing. However, that's besides the point. I want the YouTube video to be no longer than what it currently is. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.